Before wrapping up, I want to give you a little more insight into the targets of the logs. This won't be a deep dive, but I think it's important that you be aware of the options. In addition to outputting to a console, you can also output to a StreamWriter, which lets you save its contents to a file. You can output to the debug window, and most importantly, if you already have a logging solution that you use, you can output the logs to other logging APIs and continue to benefit from them. You saw already that one target was the delegate for console write line to output the logs to the console. Another useful delegate you can use is a StreamWriter if you want to output to a file. First, you need to instantiate a StreamWriter object, and then the delegate would be the writer's write line method. And it is really important that the file gets closed when you're done. That's how it gets saved as a file instead of just being in memory. And you can ensure that by disposing the StreamWriter, which you can do when the context is disposed. That means you need to override the dispose method in dbcontext, as I'm doing here, so that you can add the extra logic in, calling dispose on your StreamWriter. Not all targets are expressed as a delegate. For example, if you want to target the debug window, then you have to use a lambda expression, as you can see from this final example. Logging is such an important way to understand what's going on in your application, especially when you're trying to debug problems. But I find it also to be really educational when I'm learning new APIs. When people think of logging with EF Core, they often don't see past their desire to look at the SQL. But as you've seen, the EF Core API can show you that and so much more. It captures a lot of activity performed by the DB context from its change tracker to its database class. The simple logging is definitely simple, using the log2 method that you can add to the DB context options builder. Because EF Core's logger is an extension of .NET's logging APIs, from the log level filters and the ability to target where the logs get output. Adding to that, EF Core gives you more control of that output by filtering on category message types and even other filters. The EF Core logger is careful to hide incoming command parameters by default because of the possibility of exposing sensitive data. But in the case that you do want to see that information, you learned that you can just add the enable sensitive data logging method to the options builder, which I'll be leaving enabled for the rest of this course. And there are even more ways to configure EF Core's logs, and the EF Core docs are a great resource to learn about them. Now that we've got the logging in place, in the next module, we'll get back to executing queries and save changes as we interact with the one-to-many relationship that you defined earlier. And the logs will get pretty interesting. Here are some resources I've mentioned in this module. I'm Julie Lerman, and thanks again for watching Entity Framework Core Fundamentals.